recording this, so watch what you say.
Always.
Oh, Tom. Tom is here. Linda, Caroline. Hi.
Hey, how's it going, Rosemary?
All right.
Yeah.
I'm going to get us kicked off. By the way, Kathy did say we can go a little bit past the half-hour mark, so anyone who is able to stay on, we might go on if we still have things to do. So Kathy, Klotz-Guest, I'm going to let you kick it off, and maybe if you want to introduce yourself, Kathy, that'd be great, and thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, I will. I don't know why I'm looking at, it's refreshing, so you guys were frozen there.
Okay, we can hear you.
Life in the world of Zoom. So great to be with everybody. My name is Kathy Klotz-Guest, and my company is Keeping It Human, and I just celebrated 10 years doing that. I came out of tech, so my background is I spent time in product, then communications, marketing communications, and then when I left, I was vice president of marketing communications in tech. And I also have 20 plus years doing improv and improv comedy, and I perform and I teach improv comedy. So I left to take the two worlds that I was living, which is all the lessons I learned, managing people, managing teams, managing storytelling, to combine it with all the things that I'd learned in almost 2.5 decades now of doing stage work and teaching stage work. So that's what Keeping It Human really is about.
Excellent.
Yes, yes, yes. Oh, and I'm the author of Stop Boring Me, and a lot of the stuff will come out of this book. So a lot of it comes out of just experience, and I'm looking forward to sharing it with you and seeing how you guys apply it.
Excellent. Kathy, I'll put a link to your book in the meetup page so folks can have handy access to that.
Perfect, perfect. Yeah. Should they choose? Should you get bored, you want something else, while you're sheltering in place. All right. How many folks we got on today?
We have 16, and I'm expecting we'll probably have more folks come in as they get off other calls, I guess.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah. No worries. So that's awesome. Do you want me to just kind of jump on in, or is everybody ready?
Yeah.
Let's do this. All right.
Yeah, just jump on in. Let's do it.
Let's do it. Well, I'm so happy to be with you, and thanks for being here. I wanted to talk about sort of improv and what that means in any world, but especially in the world that we're in today. Certainly, it's a world nobody would choose, and yet here we are. We're at this inflection point, and we have this amazing opportunity, sadly, but to make it matter and to say yes and. And how many of you folks, can I get, I don't know if we can, maybe in the chat, let me know who here has taken any improv classes, even if it's just one improv class. Awesome, awesome, okay. Okay, yay, okay, fabulous. Wonderful. Well, I think everybody should take improv, and hopefully after today, you'll walk away going, I want to do improv. And you might be stuck in the short term doing it in Zoom, and that's okay. That's all right. Fabulous. Okay, great. So there's the cornerstone of improv is this idea of yes and many of you are familiar with. And it's this idea that says this. It's, I can't change the cards that I'm dealt. So I might be in a scene, and you can liken a scene to maybe being in a meeting or in a situation. That's a life scene. And you can't choose necessarily the things that happen to you. You do get to choose your reaction. And yes and says, I'm going to meet people where they're at. I'm going to honor where they're at, and I'm going to honor my own situation and where I'm at, and I'm going to find the best way to move forward that is integrative. That means that makes what you are saying valid, and I'm yes-anding that, but I'm also yes-anding myself. So we're going to talk about yes and as a way to move forward with content and story, and yes and is an innovation mindset. Yes and is the language of customer experience. Yes and is the language of innovation, and we don't call it that, and that's really what it is. Your customer has a problem. They come to you. You find a way with consultative selling to say, yes and let's figure out a way to make it work for you. That's the ultimate in yes and, even though we don't call it that. So you're already experts in yes and. So we're gonna apply this to this idea of storytelling. And where we're at right now, before we jump into some activities, is there's a lot of conversation I think everybody's been seeing about, do we market? How do we market? What's appropriate in this world that we're living in? Is it crass to sell our products and services? And of course, the reality is if we have businesses, we have to sell. The reality is, though, is that customer needs have changed. And I'm sure many of you know that because you're talking to your customers and they're telling you their priorities have changed. And so to continue to market the way that we used to would be a big old yes, but, what we call a yes, but, in improv. Yes, but my idea is better. Yes, but, and then the scene doesn't go anywhere. So how do you get forward momentum in anything in life? It's yes-anding. It's honoring the situation that they're at. So we don't want our email marketing or any of our marketing today, our content, to be a yes, but, which is basically a middle finger to your customers. Inadvertently, that's what it is. We're saying our ideas are better. So with that, I want to introduce everybody to this concept of yes and it's a very, very powerful concept. So what I thought I would do is to sort of demonstrate, if I could get like a volunteer, somebody who's brave enough to volunteer and play with me for just a second.
I'll do it.
Okay. Dennis, you want to do it? Okay. So I want to
Sure.
I want to do this idea, and it can be applied to anything. Can we get a suggestion for what Dennis and I are doing? We're planning some kind of content. What's an idea? Just a starting point of an idea. Can we get a suggestion? You can put it in the chat box. What are some suggestions? Okay. Oh, hey, Christine. Christine's here. Okay, Christine Crandall. Okay.
Hey, Christine.
Okay. So we got free offer, COVID coping. Okay, video. Okay, maybe we combine that. Let's do a combination. We're going to combine COVID and video and a free offer. Maybe we do a free how to cope with COVID video. That's our starting point. All right. And now I want Dennis to just yes, but me, just so you can kind of see the difference. Just yes, but me, and I'm going to yes, but you, and we're going to try to plan this thing out. So, so I thought, Dennis, for this kind of drip campaign, let's offer free videos on how to cope with COVID, and let's make them funny.
Well, yes, but I don't think our audience is ready right now to have anything humorous.
Yes, but we still have to laugh because people need joy and happiness even in downtimes.
Yes, but I don't think just trying to use humor is the right approach.
Yes, but what if we offered something that was really focused on their needs and it was still funny?
Yes, but can we try something besides humor? I just don't like the humor approach.
You guys get the point. And we do this all the time, and we do this, you do this, and you don't even realize you do it. So how many of you in the chat, how many of you have ever generated ideas with people in a room and you were yes butted? Somebody yes butted you. Yes, but it won't work. Yes, but, always, all the time, always, yes, but, yes. I love it. You guys are honest. Now here's the true mark of honest people. How many of you have done the yes butting? How many of you have yes butted other people? Mm-hmm. Yep. Guilty. You know what?
Look at that stream.
You're human. Congratulations. We're all human. We all do it. And here's the thing. I'm going to give you, we're going to do yes and in just a minute, but you'll find that the energy changes with yes and I want you to get a very, very technical piece of equipment, and it's called a rubber band. And I want you, every time you say yes, but, here's to get you out of the habit, pull that thing. Because one of the things it will start to do for you is raise your threshold of awareness to how often you say it. And you can't change what you aren't aware of. And a lot of times we do this and we don't even realize it. And yet we know how it feels to be on the receiving end of yes, but. I promise you, you're doing it to other people and you don't even realize you're doing it. So now let's try yes and I want you to just yes and everything I say and add your own idea. So yes and means I heard you, I'm yesing whatever you offer. I'm not butting it. I'm hearing it. I'm accepting it as it is offered. And then I'm anding, which is to add something on to move the idea forward. So let's pick a different suggestion. People had all kinds of good suggestions: video, COVID coping, a new software product launch. Oh, a branding workshop. Linda suggested a branding workshop. Okay, so now we're going to do a branding workshop, and we're going to yes and each other. So Dennis, I really want to do this branding workshop, and I'm so excited. We're going to do it all via Zoom.
Yes, and we should make sure everyone has their webcam turned on so we can see everybody.
Yes, and I think it would be really fun if we actually had maybe sub breakout rooms, and we could figure out a way to have different topics within the larger Zoom.
Yes, and let's figure out some, even though we can't serve coffee, let's figure out a way for each room to have some theme food that everyone brings themselves.
Oh, yes, and let's also let people bring a favorite drink, and we can make it sort of a drinks and branding workshop.
Yes, and let's have kids or spouses, significant others, let's welcome them to join.
Ooh, yes, and let's maybe have a reunion, and then everybody go out and try one thing they learned, and come back and do kind of a share update in a month.
Yes, and then let's have them all publish a blog post about that experience.
Perfect. All right. Yeah. And so, like, what did you notice, like, with yes and everybody? How did that feel for you or sound?
Much more positive.
Yeah. Positive. Yay. And somebody asked, what do you think if it's a bad idea? So let's talk about that. Here's the biggest misunderstanding about what yes and is. Yes and does not mean fabulous, let's go do it. It doesn't mean you're committing to it. It means you're exploring the idea. It's no different from any other technique you'd use. If you don't like the idea, you don't have to do it. Here's the thing about it. I promise you this: the minute you yes but somebody because you don't like the idea, not that the idea isn't viable, because your own bias, your own creative filter makes you say yes but, how many yes buts does it take to shut the other person down? One, and two kills it. One shuts the person down, they start to slow down. Two, and you're done. How hard do you think that person's going to try to work with you? So here's the thing about it, is that yes but will shut people down. Yes and does not mean you have to do the idea. As I like to joke around, yes and doesn't mean like you're putting a ring on the idea's finger. It means that you're taking it out for drinks, and you may or may not call it in the morning, but you're going to treat the idea with respect while you're on a date. That's what that means. So yes and is energizing. It's what if, exactly. Yes and is akin to, you don't have to be a yes and bot. You don't have to literally say yes and. It's not mind jujitsu. You can say yes let's, or how might we, or ooh what if, or I like that and. It's not the words, everybody. It's the attitude. It's the mindset. Yes and is an upward spiral of positivity. And if we step back from this for just a second, Dennis and I came up with some ideas, some of which are viable, right? And we actually had some good ideas in there. That's the beauty of yes and. So yes and is integrative, really important thing. It's not my ideas plus Dennis's. It's Dennis and I came up with them together because we yes anded. We came up with ideas that separately we would not have ever discovered. That's the thing of yes and. So how can we apply it? Well, if we use yes and with our teammates, if we use yes and with our customers and say, yes and what do you need? How might we? Yes, let's. Again, doesn't have to be the literal words of yes and. Let's figure out a way to take what you need and what we have and integrate it and move it forward. And it's the language of sales. It's the language of all of that stuff. It's the language of everything there. Any questions on that? It is a what if mindset. It's all those things. You're going to get better ideas. It's innovative. It's fun. It's positive. Here's the other thing about yes and I'm going to wait for you guys. If you have any questions, I'll take questions here before we move on. But the thing that's really most important about yes and isn't just about ideas. And yes, it is the language of innovation. But here's the thing about yes and that's really important. Now, when I've yes anded you, even if we don't do that idea, the thing is now Rosemary and Dennis and Christine and Linda and all the people that I yes anded are in my tribe, my group, my ensemble. they're more likely to listen to me because they know that whatever idea they have, I'm going to yes and them, and we're going to work together. And I'm building collaborative, baked in, they've already given their feedback. So if I have to socialize an idea, now they feel included because they actually fed into that idea. So it lowers the internal marketing resistance because now I've built the people around me and I've taken those relationships on a yes and drive. So that's a really important thing. It's as much about people as it is about ideas. Yeah. All right. So any other questions? Yeah.
There's a funny question, I think half serious, from Caroline. Does this work on kids?
Yeah, it does. It does. I'm a mom. So can I tell you it works on kids? Yes. Yeah, it does. I mean, they're probably going to look at you a little funny at first, which is why I really recommend that when we think about yes and, it's the mindset. You don't have to literally use the words yes and because they'll catch on. They're smart. It will work. Just make sure that if you yes and, maybe it's yes, let's, or, oh, that's an interesting idea. Tell me more. Vary up the language. When you use that positive and additive language to add on to what they're saying, people feel heard, and it completely changes the dynamics of any conversation. Yeah, absolutely. And my kids know. They're like, you're yes-anding me. Well, that's what they get when they have an improviser for a mother. But they've been seeing me perform since they were little. So, all right. Great questions. So let's also talk about something else. Another way to think about how to move content forward today using sort of this improv mindset and improv techniques. It builds on a yes and integrative approach. And that is this idea of mashups. And everyone's familiar with mashups. We all love mashups. Seeing Billy Ray Cyrus and Little Nas X, right, do Old Town Road, that's a great mashup. It takes two things we might not expect and figures out a way to combine them and move it forward into something new. So I don't know, does anybody have any mashups that you really love? Maybe it's food. Maybe it's a food mashup. Maybe it's a music mashup. Yeah, maybe you might think about that while we're kind of discussing. Well, hold that in front of you for a moment, because mashups are really about a way that we can say yes and to customers. So I want to do an exercise, do a mashup exercise, but what it starts with is really understanding what your customers need and want from you right now. So probably like a lot of you, I'm having conversations with my customers all the time, and their priorities have changed. You still have to sell, you still have the things that you need to do, but with COVID on everybody's mind, their needs have just shifted. So what are some things, can I get some suggestions? Because in improv, we always start with suggestions. What are some suggestions on things that are a priority for you and your business? And I don't mean selling and revenue, but maybe it's growth. Maybe it's connecting with customers. And the reason I say don't say sales, because everybody needs to sell. That's a given. What's something that's a high priority for your business right now? Okay. Okay, community, fostering community, velocity of campaigns. Yep. Yes, the velocity of change. When we're looking at some big inflection points, Christine, no doubt. Okay, customer retention, building your, okay, these are all really good things. And it's a given that you need leads. It's a given that we need sales. So that everybody needs. You need that, your customers need that. Okay. Building your profile, setting up content strategy, building a personal brand, finding your value proposition. So what I'm hearing from that is like redefining yourself, right? Rebranding in community. Okay, so let's take a couple of those and let's now look at the other side of it. We're gonna mash up what you need, but also what your customer needs, because yes and means you don't drop your stuff. You have to honor what you need right now. But moving forward with content strategy means honoring what your customers' changing priorities are too. So what is it in talking to your customers? What are their big priorities? What do you know of their priorities? What are some suggestions? They're going to delay, they want to delay purchasing. Okay, what else? What else do you know? Price, yeah. Writing this out and surviving, absolutely. Absolute uncertainty, dealing with uncertainty. Projects on hold, right. They want to sell it, but in a sensitive manner, right. Okay, perfect. These are great suggestions. Now here's what we're going to do. We're going to do some mashups. We're going to take what you need, because again, moving forward means yes anding your need. Don't drop your stuff. We want it, because I think in a time right now, we have to market with integrity. So it means moving forward for your stuff and also what they need. So here's what we're going to do. A couple of suggestions for what people need right now. I saw people need branding for your business and they need community. So community came up several times, community. What I saw for your customers, it's dealing with uncertainty, it's writing this out. Yes, okay. And marketing in a sensitive manner. Perfect. Okay, so let's take a mashup between marketing in a sensitive manner and what you need, which is building community. Now let's figure out ways that we can create content and stories by mashing these two up. So marketing in a sensitive manner for your customers, community for you. How do we yes and this? Can I get a volunteer? Is there somebody that wants to? I'll take 2 volunteers. Can I get 2 volunteers that want to play with me? Okay.
Millie and Mariana.
Hi, Millie. And who else do I have? Mariana. Okay, great. Nice to meet you. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to take those 2 things, marketing in a sensitive manner and community, and we're going to figure out ways that we can mash it up and come up with content ideas. So I'm going to start. I will start, and then I'll go to Millie, and then we'll go to Mariana and back to me, and we'll do several rounds to see where we end up with content ideas. Sound good? Yes. All right. Fantastic. Okay. How about we have an online summit where we talk about building community and using community to launch and test the kinds of sensitive ideas we're thinking about right now. And Millie, you're going to yes and that and then pass it to Mariana.
Yes, and I think that would be a great opportunity to increase our email list.
Okay. And Mariana, can you add, and move it forward? Yeah.
Sure, I'll try. Yes, and I think if we took it virtual and made it a routine thing, then we could continue building our base of customers and our audience.
Yes, and I think it would be cool to launch a community, since we want to build a community. And one of the topics that we have videos inside the community for is what people are doing now that seems to be working in terms of sensitive marketing.
Yes, and I think having that atmosphere where everybody's joining from their homes is another way to build that community from a very personal level.
Yeah.
And I think we could also involve social media and capture people's stories in new and exciting ways and have them share it out on social media and have a community generated campaign.
Yes, and speaking of UGC, of user-generated campaigns, we could ask them what's working for them and maybe even put a story start out there and let them finish the story And that could be our campaign. We could have all user-generated content.
Yes, and that's another great way to, once this is all over, continue the story and the community engagement online and continue the story.
And I'm going to ask you to add one thing to it. Add one thing to it, Millie. What's new? Yeah. What's a new idea? Yeah.
New idea. Oh,
that's
okay.
what and is. And is adding something new that moves it forward. So what's something new that you can add there?
Oh, okay. Yes, and we could build in a new layer of accountability to follow up with everybody submitting their new stories in the membership.
Great.
I don't know if I have another idea.
That's okay. We're going to keep going. We keep going.
Shoot. Yes, and I wonder if there's a way we can include it in our website to drive more, or like embed it, the content in our website to drive more organic site traffic.
Yes, and embed it in the website and create a book based on user-generated sensitive campaigns that worked for the community. And I'll stop it right there.
Okay.
How'd that feel? How'd that feel a little bit? Yeah.
I like it. It really challenges you to think on your feet.
Yeah, it challenges you to go beyond the obvious, right? It challenges you to sort of push. And I love, Mariana, that you said, thank you, Millie. And I love that you said it's tough because sometimes the obvious ideas, like you have to work a little harder, and that's normal. The obvious ideas will come quickly, but when you push a little harder and go to the third, fourth, fifth round, you're going to start going to what we call the third third. There's a third concept in strategy, and that says that the first two thirds, the first third comes easy, the second third is moderate, the third, you kind of have to work harder to get those ideas, but those ideas tend to be the ideas that have a lot of staying power. So we want to get to that third third. But thank you for demonstrating that with me. We actually had some really interesting ideas, and you can do this too. You can do it with your customers, you can do it with your employees, with your coworkers. The main thing is it's really important for you to add on to move it forward. No problem. Bye, Christine. She's got to run. You add on to move forward. This is really important. And always honor the two things that you're trying to keep in alignment. You're trying to keep the alignment between what you need, which is community, and what they want, which is understanding how to do sensitive marketing right now. And as long as you're finding ways to bring both of your needs together, you're going to have content ideas that work for both of you. Yeah. Always keep that in alignment. Yeah. Any questions on that?
I also like how it forces you to be in the moment, because you can't just be thinking about your own ideas. You have to be listening to the other person.
You absolutely have to. That's the beauty of it, is that it's too easy right now. And we all see it, right? We see all the commercials, and I kind of, the comedian part of me wants to kind of giggle a little bit, because people, it's awkward. They don't know what to do. So we're seeing all the commercials that are like, we're here for you. And you're like, but you never were here for me. Now all of a sudden you're here for me. What is that about? Or that, these uncertain times. Yes, and we're seeing that because people don't know what to do. And I think where it really is important is if we can always remember we're always going to be building on what customers want. We won't be dropping their interests. The minute we yes, but, and say, no, I got to sell stuff. That's when we stop thinking about customers, and we are not looking out for customers at all. But if we can keep anding their suggestions, we are always going to have relevant content, because we're always working to integrate their ideas. Yeah. So that's another thing you can do with that, is look for mashups with yes and. I don't know how people are doing. I got a couple more things that we can do if you guys are interested.
I'd say let's do it.
You want to do it? All right.
Yeah.
So let's talk about storytelling itself. These are great story ideas. Great. You guys are awesome. Yeah. The third thing I thought would be kind of fun is to talk about storytelling itself. I mean, we're talking about content ideas and story ideas with these other things, but there's a way to tell a story now that we have to kind of lean into. And there is a tool out there that comes from the theater world called the Story Spine. And some of you might be familiar with what the story spine is. And it was kind of popularized by Pixar, but Pixar didn't innovate it. It was innovated by a friend of mine named Ken Adams at Synergy Theater in the Bay Area. It came from Improv, and it's a spine. You still need details to flesh it out. But what it does is it helps you understand how to tell all the pieces of a story. And some of you might recognize it. You can Google it. It's once upon a time. Every day the character did this until one day, oops, disruption, something happened. And because of that, until finally this happened. And every day since that day, now the character does X. That's the new normal. And then finally, kind of the moral of the story, and because of that, that's the final part of the story. So it's a way to kind of get all the pieces for a story. And I think it's really important for us today to look at things like that, because we're in a world of conflict. How many of you, I'm curious, in the chat, share with me, are you using conflict in your stories, or are you shying away from conflict today because of the environment we're in? Yeah. Shying away. Yeah. Not using. Yeah. It depends on the content. Okay. Yeah. Tension, being cautious. Yeah, these are all great things, and I totally get it. So I understand that we need tension in our stories. Tension makes stories better, but we're shying away from tension because of the environment. And here's the thing that I think it's really important to remember is you don't have to shy away from conflict in your stories. Everybody knows there's conflict. Everybody feels it. In fact, most businesses are at this really interesting inflection point because we're all trying to pivot. We're all trying to figure out, all right, in a COVID or post-COVID world, how do we plan? How do we move forward? So it doesn't mean you should avoid conflict. It's okay to go into conflict. And I think the story spine is a really great way to think about, in the stories that you're telling, how are you using conflict to be really honest with your customers? Hey, we don't have all the answers. Things are changing for us, just like they're changing for you too. And we're in the process of writing a new story, which means you're in the process of writing a new story. What will that new story look like? Maybe we can help. What do you need? So don't shy away from that conflict. And I think if anything, we think we're going to make it worse. We're not. Everybody knows there's a COVID situation going on. So I would say one example might be to create stories with tension and details that help your customers think of their own situations in new ways. So I thought what we do is maybe use the story spine to write a story together. So who wants to do this exercise with me? We'll make this the last exercise, but
let's get some new volunteers in the mix.
Yeah, I'm looking. I know everyone's like, I don't know. Here's the thing: there's no right or wrong. We're just playing, and we're creating it as we go. There's no right or wrong here. Nope. Everybody's all zoomed out.
Call on you.
You know.
Okay, I'll volunteer. I'm just not very
All right.
thinker.
That's okay. Dana Lynn, did I pronounce it right?
You did.
All right, thank you. Well, so I thought what would be fun, and I'm gonna maybe here. Let me write this really quickly here because we don't have it. It's once upon a time. And while I'm writing this, I want everyone to be thinking about some ideas for suggestions for a starting point for our story. What's a character that you maybe encounter a lot in your business? Let's see. All right, I'm just feeding us the lines. Okay, that's the story spine right there. All right. Okay, that's the story spine. So what we're going to do is one line at a time. Dana Lynn and I are going to build a story. I'll start. And the suggestion will be, okay, so that's the everyday is that you sent email blasts. But before that, we need a character. And this is why the story spine can help you. Stories fail for 3 reasons. They fail because of lack of deep character. Hey, Kat. They fail because we don't have good details on a character. I love that tail right there. Your cat is amazing. They fail because of conflict. We don't have conflict. We're afraid, but the real world has conflict. And they fail because there's no change at the end of the story. So those are the 3 C's we have to work on to make a great story. So, all right. So we have a suggestion. Is an A-type driven businesswoman. Okay. So let's do that. Let's give her a name. Let's give the character a name. Can we get a name for the character? Flo. Okay, great. Thank you. Because stories love details. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to build it out and feel free to embellish. Once upon a time, there was a vice president of a business unit in tech named Flo, and she was powerful. She was on top of the world, and she loved her people.
Am I supposed to do the everyday next?
Every day, yep.
Okay. Should I use Beth's everyday? Flo was busy sending email blasts to her entire database because she was so excited that she really wanted to get the word out about all the great things her company was doing that could help other people. Until
one day there was a big environmental reset and people were really scared. They just couldn't buy. And they really just didn't want to get a ton of emails about what the company was worried about because customers had their own worries.
Because of that, Flo and her company started seeing a lot of people unsubscribing from the mailing lists, complaints on social media about, well, I'm tired of getting these emails every day. Can't you leave me alone? I don't have time to deal with you. And it was very disturbing to her personally, and it was starting to affect her reputation at the company.
Well, because of that, and she did take it personally because she took pride in her work, she realized there was a different way that she needed to operate. So she started calling her customers and saying, what are we missing? What do you need? What can we do for you?
Because of that, the customers rallied around Flo and the company and really started to form a strong community because they felt like Flo cared about what they had to say, where they were at, and wasn't just doing push messaging at them.
So finally, she realized that she needed to co-create these topics with her customers. And they were eager and they wanted her to succeed because they loved her company. She'd always been really pro-customer. So she started creating these new ideas and stories with her customers.
Ever since that day, Flo's business has only continued to increase because she truly developed a relationship with those customers, and she's been able to continue working with them and have them in some ways even drive some of the content because they're so excited to work with her company. And they've been very successful, and she's made a ton of money.
And happy customers. Thank you. Thank you for doing that. Thank you for playing with me. Great.
That was fun.
Awesome. That's exactly the story spine. And again, the thing that makes the story spine work is, and great job to everybody and to Dana Lynn, the thing that makes that story spine work is details. Really flesh out the details. But you can see why conflict becomes really important because we all have setbacks. We all deal with conflict. We're in this crazy world of a lot's at stake, and we sometimes get lost and it's uncertain. And your customers want to be inspired by stories of somebody succeeding over conflict. So don't shy away from conflict. Just make sure that they can relate to the character. Give that protagonist a background. Flo, we know who Flo is. We know she cares about people. Now we want to see her succeed. And now we know the change. We know the character. We know the conflict. And we know the change because she reached out to customers and brought them into the story and co-created with them. And now we know what the outcome is. So that's the story spine, and that comes from the improv world. It's basically how improvisers in real time, we create stories magically on stage because we yes and each other and we move stories forward, and we keep in mind these kinds of things in real time when we're working together. So we do it all together. So that's it. I hope you get a lot of value out of that. I think it's a great way to make sure your stories have all the major parts as long as you flesh it out. Any questions on that, or no? Well, that's all I had for you. I didn't want to take all your time, but I wanted to show you that. I think that's really valuable. And thanks to all the volunteers. You guys are awesome. You guys are super
Does anyone
awesome.
have any questions in general for Kathy?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do have a question, and I think it did come up in the chat earlier, which is the, what to do when you're trying to yes and, but the idea is really bad and it's not going to work, and it's very clear that it's not going to work, but but you want to not shut the person down.
Great, absolutely. So here's the thing. If I've learned anything, it's like yes and again doesn't mean you're going to do it, and here's how I handle it. In fact, just the other day, a client, there was a group within the division that wanted to add like 50 things before a launch, just not possible. So what I said was, yes, and I hear you. Yes, and those are great ideas. And we don't have time for all 10. So let's focus on the top 2, because that's 70% of the changes that customers want. And I think we can make progress and have a meeting to deal with the other 7 ideas later. I'm still yes-anding, even though we can't say yes to everything. So remember, a partial yes and is still okay. Find the one thing you can agree with and move forward. Because here's the thing, he didn't hear, he heard that we couldn't do everything, but he didn't hear a no. He heard, I'm willing to work with you and move forward what's viable. And let's take the top 2 things and move forward. That's what he heard. So that's how you handle it. Just make sure you find the one thing. There may be 20 things of crap. And you're like, that's a craptastic idea. I don't like it. And that's fair. It just means find the one thing that you can honestly, yes and is about integrity. So it's not about blowing smoke up somebody's butt and just saying, oh, yes and, because you think you have to. It's not that. It's yes and I hear you. And I think that idea has some viability. Let's explore that. The others might have to wait. It's being honest. It's finding the one thing you can honestly say that you can move forward on. And if you can find that thing, you are able to move forward. So always remember, there's something you can move forward in. And my kid didn't want to wear pants the other day. I was like, well, so yes, I hear you, and we're wearing pants. So what do you want? Do you want the brown ones or do you want the blue ones? And I'm giving him a choice. He's like, oh, okay, the blue ones. Now I have a choice. So as long as you stay in integrity with that, you will always be able to move forward, and don't drop your integrity. Yes and is about integrity. Does that help?
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, so my book is about Stop Boring Me, and it's about how do we come up with content ideas, story ideas that move businesses forward. That's the subtitle. So it's all about how do we create content that isn't boring, that turns people away. And people get bored, but they also are turned off by the fact that we often yes but them. Why do your customers not look at your content? You know why? You didn't think about it this way, but you said yes but. You created content that they couldn't relate to. So when we reframe it through a yes and lens, through sales, that's the language of sales, customer service, and content. And so that's really what that book is about. It's about not just creative strategies, but it's also a mindset for teams. And I work a lot with teams and executives, and sometimes executives yes but each other a lot. And then they're expecting the rest of the organization not to do that. So it's about modeling the behavior. So that's what that book's about. Let's see. What do you recommend that might just be boring? What do you recommend regarding things? I think there's always a way to make even boring things unboring. I really do. And it takes work. Here's the reality is that a lot of times we do things boring because we think we want to get it out quickly. And it takes work. But here's the thing. If you create something boring, you know it's boring. You're asking your customers to read it. maybe it's worthwhile taking a little extra time to think about how you might make it less boring so that your customer will read it. For example, I just ran across a bank that was reaching out to millennials to save. And they actually, one of the things they did that was really popular is a bank. It was a bank. And they created a pop-up book and a coloring book for adults. And it was a big hit because just because they're teaching financial literacy doesn't mean they have to do it in a boring way. They created a coloring book, and it was the most downloaded campaign and successful campaign that this bank actually ran. Why? Because they put some creativity into it. So even if you're doing boring financial stuff, whatever, there's still a way to communicate in a way that's not boring. There's always a way. You just have to maybe put in a little bit of yes and a little bit of time into it to make it a little less boring. Yeah. Good questions. Good questions. All right, everybody. So I'm going to look forward to those story spines. I want you to use those story spines, and I want you to think yes and certainly stay connected. If you guys want to reach out to me on LinkedIn or Twitter, yeah, that's perfect. I'm at Keeping It Human. You can reach me at Kathy@keepingithuman.com. I'll put this in here if you want to follow up with me, and stay connected.
Thanks so much, Kathy. I'd like to ask the audience for a round of applause. Especially with those with your webcams, we'll show the applause. Thanks so much, Kathy.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Thank you for the volunteers. I really appreciate it. You guys did awesome. So,
Thanks, Kathy.
All right, everyone stay safe, and thanks again, Kathy, for joining
Thanks,
us.
Dennis.
you get it. Bye.
Take care.
Bye. All right. That was fun. Thanks for having me.